handwriting goes right out of it.
Yeah, just do bullet points. Anything bigger than that, I can't read.
Okay, so how about scratch that out?
Just the keyword. Because I read everything. I'm proud
Yeah.
of it. So just as a reminder in case.
And Joe, I'll monitor the Twitch chat, see if we get any questions. Okay. So you don't have to worry about that. Huh?
I'm learning.
Yep. So I'll be watching the Twitch chat, see if we get any questions from there.
Oh, nice.
And I'll try to.
Look at you keyed into technology.
I know. It's almost like it's my job or something.
And at the end of the panel, if anybody wants ribbons, I have 3 different versions. And then Star Mage, that's our animated series. That's coming soon.
So
Vampires of Whitechapel, that's our one fiction podcast. And then Continuing Course is our other one. Okay. Whitechapel one. Ah, cool.
I'm on the camera. Oh my gosh.
Yes, we're live on stream.
Live on stream.
We're live and direct, coming to you, Edison Carter.
Live from DragonCon.
We are live from the semi-sold out DragonCon in downtown Atlanta.
Semi sold out. That's what I like to hear.
At least I don't know if it's semi. I don't know. I'm assuming we're sold out.
All of our semis are sold out. If you need another truck, gotta get it full.
Jason or JC, either way works. Jason works.
But is it preferred?
Jason will.
There was a spider crawling.
Let's keep it simple.
on my last panel.
Oh, really?
I was like, "Oh, hey, buddy, what are you?" I'm like, I picked it up here, and then the question came to me.
It was like,
So
oh.
I just stood here with the spider on my finger as I was like talking. I'm like, I don't know. And then afterwards, I'm like, you can go now.
You go by.
It looks really heavy.
Oh, it's lighter than you think. It's unwieldy.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, touch it, yeah. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, I already broke it. Never mind. I'm not touching it anymore.
Oh, it's that time.
All right. Anyone in the back, can you hear us all right? Okay. I know we got the fan back there, so if you have trouble hearing us for some reason, raise your hand. Let us know. We'll turn it up.
Turn up the fan.
No, we'll turn up the microphones.
Watch the tail when you sit. Everybody knows. We have one more coming, but that might happen as we kind of are going through. Everybody's seen the chaos that is upstairs. So,
I just came from it.
yeah. So when our last panelist does come in, if everybody could give them a big encouraging. It's always awkward and a little scary when you come in late. So give them just some nice positive encouragement. Because we're happy that they're here and we're happy that you all are here. We are talking about composing for a narrative and audio in general.
Yes.
From editing to sound effects to leitmotif. We're going to hit all of the French and non-French aspects of audio, which is all aspects. Wow, that's pretty exciting. And we're excited for you guys to be here. We still have a few more minutes. I'm going to kind of just continue to hope that we fill this gaping void in our hearts here.
Yeah. One of the things that I can to, sort of to what you were saying, although I know the joke there was the French.
Whoa.
Hold on. But there's a lot of in like music and audio and stuff like that a lot of like history and preconception that we've all consumed a lot of is very westernized music, westernized storytelling, and whatnot, all of that. And I actually read a scholarly article recently, which those can be quite a drag sometimes to read.
Scholars.
But this one was specifically talking about using narrative composition, not necessarily like Western style narrative composition, but just the idea of narrative in order to teach music composition, as opposed to using like historical Western style music theory and things like that, which I think is fantastic.
That's an
As someone
interesting
who,
idea.
who did learn music theory and hated some of those classes. I still learned
You
it,
come in.
but I didn't love it. Yes, welcome.
Yeah, don't be shy.
Have a seat.
Mhm.
Have a
Or
sit.
don't. You can loom.
Or loom.
Yeah.
That's
or
a great word.
Consensual loom.
I'm wondering how many people in the audience have composed music. Or
Oh,
wow.
Oh,
How
this
many
is
people
so
in the-
exciting.
How many people in the audience have experience with like audio mediums, doing stuff with that?
Ooh, how about audium larges?
Mhm.
Audio.
Extra large.
Audio large.
Audio smalls,
Aha!
yeah.
Here we are.
Oh.
Leviosa.
You have a choice.
He's right on. He's
You
right
have a
on
choice of
time.
seats to my left or to my right.
I got stuck in a people traffic jam.
Oh.
Yes.
And an
At
inevitable part-
DragonCon? No.
An inevitable part of DragonCon. Do we want to migrate down? We can.
I can.
We can scoot. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's get it in.
We're scared. Yeah, you guys come to us. I don't know what you thought I was saying.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
I took it as you
No.
just didn't want to sit next to me.
It's a
so-
name tag shuffle. This is yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Even better. Oh, you're blank. You have no.
Jason. Here we go.
What was the plan?
Here's the dry erase.
Yeah. Look, I mapped where you guys were sitting for my name chart, and now my mind is blown. Hello, everybody. We're gonna jump into it. 4:00. You made it exactly on time, even through the mass of humanity, which is pretty exciting. And you all did too. Thank you so much for being here. We're talking audio. We're talking narrative composition, composing in a narrative. I know very little unless you wanted to talk about bad punk rock. But
But isn't bad punk rock good punk rock though?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, that's my opinion, but fortunately, I'm moderating some people who are much more skilled and versatile, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And I'm going to start just on my left, and we're going to make our way down in a sort of linear fashion. Some would call it a narratively linear fashion.
Oh. Uh-huh.
Yep. My name is Jason Delatorre. I'm with Transmissions from Atlantis Entertainment. I am a writer, director, composer, editor, everything, because I can't afford anything. So that's what.
Hi, I'm Scott Moore. I did all the audio work for the Blood Crow stories, including recording, sound design, sound effects, music placement. Also a former musician, and I'm the one that people can't afford to pay. Typically,
Once musician, always musician.
Yeah.
true.
It's just you're just not.
I'm out of
actively
practice.
playing.
Yeah.
My name is Gabriel Perez. I'm the audio engineer for the Quid Pro Roll podcast, and I also create all the music and most of the sound effects for that as well.
Nice. Hi, I'm Jason Charles Miller, and I wrote the theme song to Critical Role campaigns 1 and 2. I also
Still my favorite.
thank you. I also was the composer for their Undeadwood series. I have 12 songwriting credits on The Legend of Vox Machina, due to the generosity of Neil Cree. And I also have written theme songs for a few other shows and had a lot of songs placed in television shows and video games. All that being said, I do not consider myself a composer. I consider myself a songwriter. What these guys do is otherworldly. What I do is just pretend to be them for 1 to 3 minutes. And I've had luck doing that, so that's what I
You pretend
concentrate
to
on.
be me much better than I am.
Those of you who love Eurovision know 1 to 3 minutes, the perfect amount of time to present. Yes, thank you, great. So we're going to try to get one commonly asked question out of the way up top, which is to talk gear for the gearheads out there. Just what are you comfortable?
Gear for the gear.
I think every single person up here is probably going to tell you use what you're comfortable with. Like take everything that everybody says here with a grain of salt and just always use what you're most comfortable with. But I know people always want to know, so we'll go.
I mean, I can start. I use FL Studio for my main DAW. I know it's not really supposed to be considered professional. I also used Cubase in the past, but FL Studio to me has been the easiest to work with. And I got a billion different music libraries that I bought way too many, and I have a big story about that I'll tell you guys in a little bit. But
No such thing.
yeah.
I'm a recovered Pro Tools user. I currently use Reaper as my primary DAW. I've used Logic, Reason, a little bit. I'm trying to learn Ableton now, more for music, but Reaper is my primary DAW.
Heck yeah. I use I like to refer to myself as an audio atheist. I use Logic and Reason a lot. My Logic being the most common one that I'll use for like podcasting and composition, and Reason because it is a very powerful like workhorse. And if I'm doing something very complex, then I will use that. And my mic is very hot.
Wow. I got it.
There's so many audio engineers. This is so nice.
Fortunately,
That's the chimes in the
That would be a
background.
shame, wouldn't it? The sound was awful.
Worst audio
Yeah.
panel.
Yeah, so those are the chimes in the background, guys.
And I utilize a small Foley studio sometimes as well, of my own creation. Good luck making one of those. It's really fun and a nightmare.
I hate myself, so I use Pro Tools for everything.
Bravo.
I
Bravo.
cannot get away from it. I even program the MIDI in Pro Tools.
Oh God. Oh God.
You're so deep.
Yeah.
I know. Sorry. Yeah. I know. Anyway, yeah.
I think a lot of composers got like taught Pro Tools. Like I definitely know how to use Pro Tools. I just don't.
Yeah, I had to use Pro Tools because I went to audio school. And then once I got out of school, I didn't have to use it anymore. So.
I choose to use it, so think about me what you will.
Yes.
Well, you use it very well. Like
It's good.
It's a good DAW. It's just anyway.
Yeah, and like you said,
we can sit here and argue DAWs all day.
yeah, like you said, I mean, it's use whatever you're most comfortable with. So.
Yeah,
It's a tool.
Obviously, don't. As you've heard, everybody up here is using different things. Feel free to experiment and find the things that feel naturally to you, because the tool at the end, like you're trying to create, this is the medium that you're creating through. Find something that makes it as easy as possible to take your ideas.
Yep.
Speaking of ideas, we're gonna jump into some of the meat of the panel. I'm a vegetarian, so it's our meat substitutes of the panel.
The beyond meat of the panel.
It's a plant-based.
It's the Incredibles.
Yeah. But if you have questions, we are going to have some time at the end. So please take that question and just like my feeling for my parents, shove it deep down and hold on to it till later. Great. We're going to start by talking about the beginning. When you're so somebody has either given you a brief about what you're going to create and or the actual what you're creating around, whether that's a podcast or whatever. What do you do? What's your first steps?
Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
me.
we can
Okay.
start. Yeah, you can jump in.
Well, I'm usually the one that gives myself the stuff that I have to do.
Yeah,
so,
you're the everything.
I kind of analyze the scene and try to figure out exactly where the music will enhance the scene. It's a little difficult because when you're also when I'm doing a fiction podcast, you also have to include the dialogue, the sound effects. I've actually noticed that a lot of fiction podcasts don't even put music during the narrative part of it. They like to either have it as an intro or an outro. But for me, I like to try to make movies in your mind. So I try to have kind of music kind of drive the narrative along with it. But there's always that balancing act of where it's too much and you're starting to overwrite the actual dialogue and you need to pull back. So it's a little difficult to kind of figure that out, but it's kind of in the writing. When I'm writing a script, I'm also thinking about the music and what I'm going to inject in the different scenes to kind of make it go a little bit better.
So when I was Blood Crow is on hiatus. So when I say was, I'm not saying formally, just saying it's currently on hiatus. But during the Blood Crow days, I have my co-producer is the writer. So they were very good about putting notes into the script of what sound effects needed to happen and everything like that. But very much like what he said, it's all about creating a scene in your mind. So I'll look over the script and see what's happening, and then kind of I try to think like I'm watching a movie or a TV show. Like, what would this be on screen? But then remembering that I don't have the visual element. So if there's footsteps, I'm marking out everything, every little noise. If it's footsteps, where are they? Are they in a field? Are they on cobblestone? Are they on hardwood floors? That sort of thing. So, a lot of it is just using your ears and thinking about like what you hear on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, so you're saying you kind of get notes from your producer.
Yep.
And then you're sitting there and you're trying to, like, if the notes say footsteps, you're like, okay, but let me start to visualize and put what those footsteps should be for the scene around
they give me enough to give me a framework.
Yeah.
And then it's up to me to fill in the rest.
Yeah.
And then if we, like one season we had a kind of a sponsorship deal with a band, so we were placing their music a lot in different scenes, and they would tell me like, this scene we're using this song. Other times it's very much like, okay, well, this is a shootout scene, so I need some active music, I need some some drama music, or this is a very sad scene, I need maybe some violins or some strings or something like that. So it's just getting that scene in your mind, and then thinking, and think of when you watch a show where, like almost watch a show and close your eyes and listen and see if you can kind of visualize the show, without actually watching it.
That is actually something I love to do, but in a slightly obtuse way, where I'm often working I live in a generational household, so my mother and grandmother be watching like a show or something downstairs, and I'll be working in my office bedroom area, and I can hear the show that's going on, and I'm just hearing like the sound effects, the music, the dialogue, and I'm painting a very different picture when I go downstairs into the light. And I'm like, oh god, I need a snack. And I go down there and I'm watching the show. I'm like, wow, this is not at all what I was imagining. Like I had painted a different picture because I was only working with the audio. And that is a very real practice, especially if you're doing tracking audio, which is sort of what he was talking about. For Quid Pro Roll, the podcast that I composed for, something that I used to do a lot in the very early episodes when I was trying to figure out what was comfortable for me in that was I would go through the episode and I would write tracking notes, which what that is literally, it's very much what he was talking about, where like I will listen, and every time there's a thing, whether it's a sound effect or a music cue, I would stop it and I would put a little time note bar thing and I would write what it is. And gosh, that took so long to do.
Yeah.
But I would go through the whole thing. Now that I'm much more proficient in it, I will do the same listen through of the episode before I edit it. But I will only put a note if it's something that I'm like, if I don't write this down, I will forget it. But otherwise, it's like if there's a spot, if I hear something, I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be a great spot for footsteps. I know that I'll find that again later, type of thing.
Yeah.
My group does not usually give me notes. If they do give me notes, it'll be in the audio, which is also really fun.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're like, okay, put a giant monster sound effect in here.
Yeah.
And if I'm feeling cheeky, I'll throw in like a dolphin sound effect or something.
Wilhelm scream.
I'm one of Gabe's performers, and that I'm in the Quid Pro Roll podcast every now and
Yes.
again. I'll just be like, yeah, and then I screamed.
And
leave
So
a
now
nice
you got to put an echo in there.
A big blank.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure, he loves
there
that.
have been instances where I will also just leave it blank.
Yeah. The
'Cause
worst.
that's funnier.
The worst is always whenever whenever I'm just like, okay, Gabriel, have fun here, and also make sure to take this out. And he's like, no, I'm leaving that in. I'm gonna make it sound silly. Yeah. So.
I kind of do what I do first. And the question was when we first get given
Yes.
the job, right?
Yes.
So I will, like when I'm walking my dogs or something, I'll start singing melodies into my phone, into my little phone recorder. Before I even, just if I know what the theme, just if I know what the job is, I've just been given the job, I know roughly what it is, I haven't even seen it yet, I'll start thinking of themes or different characters and just start humming them into my phone and recording them and going back to that later. So I start with that to kind of get me in the mood and get me going on that route. And then, you know, then later comes the nuts and bolts. But I kind of have to clear my head first.
Yeah, no, I definitely have. I have a piano app on my phone that I wind up just like I'll be playing something late at night and I'll hit the record one. And God, I have so many weird recordings on there.
And the problem is later, you know. So what do? You label it like cool riff number 1. Then you're like, oh, cool riff number 73. Which was the really cool one?
Yeah. Right.
I'll never know.
Or song idea date.
Yeah. Do your dogs ever jump in when you're humming and then they?
No.
They have the percussive shift.
Right.
Yeah. There's always those stories of the musicians. The first I can think of is Opeth, Mikael Ackerfeld, who's like, "Yeah, I wrote the whole first album on a napkin," and you sit there and you're like, "What?"
Pizza boxes.
Yes.
You're just like, what? Okay, the inspiration's here. What can I write with /on?
Yeah. Well, because lesson here is always carry some sort of notepad or use the notes on your phone because, and I'm sure because I think we had a lot of composers in here. You get your ideas at the worst possible time. You don't get your idea when you've got your DAW open and you got your keyboard in front of you.
Yeah.
You get your idea when you've woken up at 2:00 in the morning because you have to use the restroom, and then all of a sudden a song idea comes in.
Yeah.
Real quick.
You're 2 minutes into your shower.
We have a lot of people coming in. We have 3 seats up here. We have some 2s over here. Just if everybody could help everybody, we're a community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of communities, thanks Blueberry, the sponsor. Please rate this panel on their app and follow on Twitch, DC Digital / DC Digital Media.
So we are live on Twitch.
Yes, and other community things that I'm supposed to have done already, but now we've engaged
in the
you.
contract,
This is like a mid-ad read. Is that this year's official charity for DragonCon is Open Hand. And DragonCon will match up to 100,000. Oh, it has dollars here. Dollars of money raised. I thought it just said of money.
100,000 of money.
100,000 of money. So that's really great news. You can donate at https://donate.openhandatlanta.org/G/DragonCon. I won't read that again. Please look it up.
We know it's long. We've already told them to shorten it.
We've told them, shorten this link down, Gorbachev, DragonCon. We've got more. So you guys, you've talked about how you've gotten your prompts, you've gotten your materials that you're working with. Some of them came from you, which is nice. That's a nice extension. And some of them came from others, and you're kind of interpreting what they want. Now, when you start to delve into that, when you're trying to create a specific tone or feeling to evoke from your audience, what are some of your cheat codes, your best practices that you use to go about that? And we're going to go in the opposite order this time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jason looked at me like,
to tell somebody that we were live on Twitch. Tell me, what channel are we on right now?
we're on Twitch /DC Digital Media.
DC Digital Media. Okay,
Yes,
great.
DragonCon Digital Media.
Yeah, good. Okay, what was the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Even better. So the question that we're jumping into, somebody has given you your prompt. You have a distinct tone or feeling that you need to evoke. And what are some of your cheat codes? What are some of your best practices of how you take that and work towards it?
Cheat code, actually. So there's kind of an older program you guys may, cheese me. There's an older program called Omnisphere 2.
Oh yeah.
And I will start with that, and because it has so many soundscapes. Talk about like it almost is Foley to a certain extent if you find the right thing. I'll just sit there and just scroll through it until I find like the sort of the bed of usually something creepy, and then build off it from there. So my cheat code is Omnisphere 2.
Yeah, I heard cheat code creepy bed.
Yeah, I mean, in a similar sort of way, I use a lot of plugins from Native Instruments, and there's a lot of really weird things that they come out with.
Yep.
Like Scream is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Or Thrill, sorry.
Yep.
And in that one, like there's a lot of like really fun soundscapes that I can create. I will say, in a almost similar sense, a lot of the compositions I make, I try to leave elements of like creepy in them.
Mhm.
Even if it's like a happy, jolly moment. In fact, in my practice, the things that sound the scariest or the saddest tend to be something that is happy, but in a scary or sad context, kind of thing.
Like a fragile way.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's like
Almost like a let's say a happier sounding sound effect, but in a minor key.
yes, or yeah, or
Something
like having a melody or something that you're used to hearing with like a very happy moment or a happy moment with a character, and then it plays again but softer and on just a solo piano with a lot of reverb during like a death scene, and you're like, oh cool, now I'm remembered of all the happy times this character had. Type of thing. And so using, for me, a lot of it is I will use separations of highs and low tones.
Mhm.
Separation is
High
huge.
tones tend to be like a safe space in our ears, and then low tones create a sense of tension. We play both of them at the same time, and it gives you that drawing. That's why trap music is often horror, interestingly, because it has that super high, super low at the same time. And then I will also specifically work with recurring themes to create memories within like an audience's psyche, type of thing. So I can evoke an emotion through a memory.
Heck yeah.
So on a slightly different tip from that, so our podcast, Blood Crow Stories, is a horror podcast, and so a lot of it,
We're all spooky.
it's not spooky, but it's also a bit of gore sounds. So that's where we come in, and I'm talking about this because I don't think we've really talked about it yet, but that's where we'll break out the mics and have Foley sessions. So
Does everybody know what Foley is?
does anyone?
Well, here,
Anybody not know what Foley
I
is?
don't know.
Okay, so Foley is using real life objects to create sound effects.
Yes.
So, most common example is if you take a carrot and you break it, it sounds like a bone breaking.
It's great, especially when it's
Or
right
celery.
into the
If
mic.
you crack celery slow, that's like a bone breaking or a tendon.
Jimmy cracked celery and it scared the out of me.
Yes.
Oh, we've destroyed a lot of vegetables. But yeah, so a lot of it is depending on like, okay, so, and again, this is where communication with your co-writer, with your writer, or if you are the writer, is important. Of like, okay, so in this scene, the monster is ripping their arm off and then eating it. Okay, so I need tearing, I need ripping, I need blood sounds, chewing, exactly. And so we'll plan our Foley sessions around that. As far as
Scott's
cheat codes,
surrounded by vegetables.
so I would say, that's another one of our team members actually does that because he has a lot of fun with it. But a lot of it, I would, so if you want to say a go-to technique I have is layering. So or even with something like footsteps, I'll find a footsteps sound effect, and if I need it to be a monster's, I'll layer a couple different sound effects pitched down and then bass boosted or heavily compressed, or if I'm, it's a monster voice, I'll have the actor do a read on it, and then I will take it, I'll pitch one up an octave, pitch one down an octave, add in some chorus for flavor, boom, you've got a big scary monster or a demon or what have you. So I guess layering is probably like one of my go-to techniques.
Love that.
Yep. And for me, it really kind of depends on what show I'm working on. So like Continuum Force is kind of like a Stargate-y sci-fi adventure type show. So a lot more, like horns and strings and, a lot more faster pace. Try to get that epicness in it. Vampires of Whitechapel, very creepy. So a lot more lower register stuff. I like using solo cello. Solo cello is always very creepy, and when applied the right way, it really punctuates a scene. I also use Thrill. Thrill is a great tool. It's a lot of fun to create soundscapes with that tool. And then with Star Mage, it's more like kind of like a whimsical fantasy kind of thing. So it's more, lot of flutes and woodwinds and things like that. So.
Heck yeah. I think if you were to look at this panel and move me to the side, you would see a horror. This is probably, there's some scariness. Yeah.
Well, I'll say one of the biggest emotions to evoke with music, especially for narrative purposes, is like fear and terror and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But even going like, I know we're talking about a narrative, but even reality shows do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Game shows do it all the time.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, different sound hits to
A klaxon.
to enhance the scene. Like, oh, it's a shocking moment. Strings. You suddenly have violins, or
is this your suitcase?
yeah.
And one of my favorite things to do is, take the motif or the theme that I'm using, and then if it's a scene that's like, a character dies, right, and it's supposed to be really sad, you're supposed to invoke it. If it's all been epic up to this point, then you take it and just use like a slow piano,
Just a
really
solo
sad,
instrument, yeah.
The David Banner walking kind of thing, and it just pulls out that emotion out of the audience. I was talking to one of the other panelists in one of the other panels, and he was like, "Oh, when I listened to that scene, I cried," and I was like, "Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to do."
Yes.
Sorry.
we joking about that in our Discord. Like there was one particularly gruesome scene, and someone was like, "Yeah, that made me throw up."
Oh my.
And it was
Whoa,
like, and it was
wow.
like, like in the Discord, I'm like, I'm sorry that I'm sorry that you had to do that. Obviously that was, it was too much. Behind the scenes, I'm like, yes.
Yeah, they're like awesome praise.
Never
really
gotten that
sorry.
better.
Yeah, it's like really sorry, but that's exactly, I want to make this a visceral moment.
My goal was right up to that point. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry you passed it.
So I'm hearing your goal is to make your audience throw up.
Yeah.
Speaking of, let's talk about leitmotifs.
Leitmotif.
What's that?
Yes. Gabriel, what's a leitmotif?
So leitmotif is often used in pretty much anything where you could have a concept occur again, whether it's in literature and music, just a handful of other things in film, where it's a concept broken down very, very simply, usually. And then it's something that can repeat and has a meaning to it. So it could be anything from the big chords at the beginning of a superhero theme, or even in we all did English literature, the color red in the Scarlet Letter, and things like that, where it's like just an idea, a simple idea usually, and it's something that occurs multiple times, whether it's in, again, a music composition or a story or whatever.
Yeah.
So that is a leitmotif.
So
A motif is a general idea. A
Yeah.
leitmotif is a specific.
and I would say, like, think of like the Avengers theme, right? It's overused. I know it's overused. I know, but you hear that in it pops up randomly, and if it's not the entire theme, it's little bits of the theme that you recognize.
Yeah, like what Howard Shore did on the Lord of the Rings film.
Yes.
You know, he had the theme for the Fellowship, and as more people joined the Fellowship, he added more instruments.
Yes.
Right.
I loved that
Yes.
so much.
And
Yeah.
So when all 9 were there, then it was 9 instruments.
A full score, a full arrangement, and leitmotifs can even be like what Jason was just saying was
one or two
instrument
instruments.
instrument notation, or even just a couple notes. Aragorn's theme, I think, is like 6 notes long. Type of
Yeah,
thing.
I've always tried to keep mine between 4 to 8 because
Yeah.
that seems to be the happy medium. And it's one of those things that when you get your motif, you can reuse it and reformat it in so many different ways. You can speed it up, you can slow it down, and it's actually the core, I think, of like any project that you're working on. You want to have a theme for certain things, like a theme for a specific character, or a theme for, you know, a great example, the Imperial March for Empire Strikes Back, right? When you hear that, you know Vader's going to show up at some point, right? So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Another great example of a leitmotif in general, and especially how it can reoccur throughout a piece. If y'all think of Beethoven's Fifth, the just the 4 notes, da 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 da. Like if
Dun,
you
dun,
listen,
dun, dun.
if you listen to that those 4 notes repeat 400 times, I think.
That's
throughout the
pretty
thing.
much all of it.
yeah.
But it's like that's the continuous leitmotif over and
That's
over,
a
and
great
how many
example.
different ways you can use that leitmotif in a single piece.
So now I know what the heck we're talking about, which is great. And now I want to know, how do you go about building these? We've heard a little bit about how you begin your creative process. So I'll say you're further along. You're kind of at that point where you're putting something together, whether it's to submit to the people who are your producers or who have given you your prompts, or whether to yourself. And how do you then, you're like, okay, I'm really digging in. How do you create the leitmotif that you end up using in your projects? And we'll start with, well, we haven't started with you yet, Scott.
Okay.
Yeah. These long arms.
A lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's and you know, while I don't do any full-on composition, I have added music, you know, and little motifs. So a lot of it is opening up native instruments or whatever plugins you got, and taking the keyboard out and kind of playing around until I get something that's like, okay, you know, the biggest thing is you want something that's fairly simple, because even like all the ones we've mentioned so far, you know, Beethoven's Fifth, that's 4 notes. You know, Avengers, we can all almost hum that, right? You know, you want, like you said, 4 to 8 notes. Keep this. You want a simple melody because that's the earworm. That's what. As soon as people hear that, they're going to hear it again, even if you don't recognize it at the very beginning, right? Like, okay, this is, you know, think of anime. You got the intro theme song, right? And then they put a piano motif of just piano, but it's playing that melody.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same thing. It's just not a whole orchestra.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of it is trial and error, but using very small, you know, I wouldn't say progressions, but just small melodies, and trying to build from there, or just use that as, you know, depending on what you're going for.
Yeah, the thing that I do is I like to have ignition sessions. That's at least what I call them, right? And what I'll do
Ignition
is
sessions.
ignition
I love
sessions.
that.
And so
Please tell me more.
so basically what I do is, you know, I will decide, you know what, today I feel like working on melodies, and it's all going to be in the, say, G minor, right? And so I just block out an hour. It's just going to be that hour, and for lack of a better term, screw around and just see what I can come up with in that hour of time. And then I take that, save it, put it away. Another day I'll do another session, and maybe I'll do stuff in like C major, you know, and just keep working on that. And it doesn't even have to just be melodies. It can be chords. You know, maybe I'll just, you know, let me try to write, 3 or 4 chord progressions today.
Yeah.
And just kind of go like that. And once you have this built-in library, you can go back and listen to it. And because I'm my own boss, I'm like the worst critic of my own work. So I have the imposter syndrome worse than I think anybody. But what I will do is, you know, I will take those, and then, you know, I can take some of those ideas and try to work them into a fully composed, you know, piece.
Yeah.
And you save them under compositions in G major, cool riffs 47.
Yes.
No, you know, I'll date it. You know, I'll put it by date, so at least I have an idea of,
that's
you know,
not
when
bad,
I
yeah.
tried to do it. You know.
And we'll continue down to Jason.
Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to.
No, it's perfect.
It's interesting. It really depends on who I'm working with, because if I know the client and it's somebody that I worked with before, I will send more of like a sketch of
Yeah.
something, right? if it's someone I haven't worked with before, I'll try to send something that sounds as completed as possible.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that I might even send it over to a mixer if I feel like my ear isn't right. I'll send it to a mixer friend of mine and be like, I got to turn this in. I'm giving them 3 options, but I want them to sound like finished products because that's sort of the era we're living in. No one seems to be able to suspend disbelief anymore. If they hear a little melody that on like a simple piano sound, they think that that's what it's going to sound like in the end. It's like, no, it's not. But so I just try to make it sound as produced and completed as possible when I turn it in, even as a demo, because then it helps the producers along to imagine where it's going to be. So I put more work on myself, but also it's less of a headache in the end.
Kind of front load the
expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to imagine it's got to be hard for you too, because the director or whatever you're working with is somebody that probably doesn't know music all that well,
Right.
But it says I want it to sound like 300. What he's really saying is he wants to have 300 soundtrack, and Tyler who wrote it, but he doesn't have the money to pay for that.
Yeah, we can't afford the licensing on the 300 soundtrack. So can you make it sound like that, but not like that?
I want 300, but more like 299.
That's actually a huge thing that like I was worried with when I first started working with a QPR, and I asked, like, should I send you all like ideas and stuff? And Alon immediately was like, never. You make the episode, publish the episode. Do not wait for our opinions on it, because we will probably just give you a bad opinion and you're going to second guess yourself.
Too many cooks situation.
It's a really good point, because a lot of people when you're composing for your own process and you create like a piano melody and you're like, wow, I can hear all the potential in these 7 notes.
Yep.
And then you send it to someone else and they're like, yeah, sure, it's piano. Like I could play
It's okay.
that. Yeah,
I can play that.
I was doing a guitar thing years ago. I was doing a guitar thing for like a network promo, and then the notes they gave back to me, they wanted it to sound like Silver Sun pickups. I'm like, okay. So I did something that I felt sounded like kind of like Silver Sun pickups. Then they said, could you make it more Chariots of Fire? What does that even mean?
You want so much delay.
You either want 12-minute song or you want a 3-minute song. Yeah.
But also there was no piano in that. And of course, Chariots of Fire is known for the piano melody.
Right.
So like, what do you even mean? Anyway,
Well, and that's I've run into that with my co-producer, because I'll with them I'm sending them kind of the rough mix or the rough, and it's like, well, no, they wanted this for this, like that's where communication is huge. Fortunately I was working with someone who's a good friend of mine, so we had a very good communication. We were able to talk back and forth and figure out what each other wanted. But you may not always get that, so that's where you have to like kind of play like translation, like, oh, I want the 300 soundtrack. Well, and that's when you have to ask follow-up questions of like, okay, what about that do you like?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the horns? Is it this? Is it that? Like get descriptive words. Try, oh, I want something that sounds tribal, or I want something that's modern or vintage or whatever. And also think of, the production you're doing, of what era it's in. For Blood Crow, we started in like the 30s. And then season 2, we went to the Wild West. Season 3, we were in the future. Mm-hmm. So you got to adapt. It's completely different aesthetics, which made it interesting. But it was also like, I've got to now completely throw out my old library and build a whole new one.
Continuum Force is a time travel show, so
right.
So I'm going back to Victorian times, and so I'm trying to research what does Victorian music sound like, So it's kind of crazy. One funny story that I wanted to share was with a composer friend of mine, where he told me that he got a job where the director asked him to have the music sound like Raiders of the Lost Ark meets Hellraiser. That wasn't the best part. It's a family film about a boy and his dog. how do you work with that? Where do you start? It's like, how?
God, this brings up something that we don't have here, but we've touched on this a lot just in the last few questions. So I want us to lean in and possibly help some people here with how do you manage your clients' expectations? For those of you who don't have a client, how do you manage yourself and your expectations?
I am literally the worst client you could ever have because I'm never happy. I've rewritten complete songs because I didn't think it worked, even though my wife would say, "No, it's great. We should use that." And I'm like, "No, it completely sucks. I'm terrible. It's the worst thing I've ever wrote."
Yeah. So we're gonna just how do you what are some of your best practices as far as communicating with clients, especially new ones? Because I think that's also something that hopefully everybody's going to as you pursue your music career, you can get to that point. I know as a graphic designer, sometimes people say make it pop, and that's my least favorite thing in the whole world. So please let us know that. We're going to start down at Jason, and I'm also going to just remind Gabriel that I'm his client.
So you can talk all about him right here.
I try to get as many examples from them as possible of what scores they like, what soundtracks do they like, what bands do they like, what style of music do they like, what are they thinking of for this project, and then I either get them to send me examples or take notes for what they're saying and then send them examples back like this, like that. Not necessarily from something that I've done, but just something that I find that they're talking about, and then we can really hone in on what they want from there.
A lot of with QPR. Alex Smith is the writer of the storyline for that one, and so early on, I asked her okay, what are the sort of sounds of the different countries, the different continents in this world, and she told me one of them is very Celtic, and another one's very Victorian and clockwork, and this other one's very tribal and jungle. And I'm like, cool, these are words that I like. Please give me more adjectives. The more adjectives you give me, the more accurate I can give you what you need. Roughly what you were saying, where it's just give me as much of a composite of raw data pieces so I can squish them together and create something that I think you're going to love, hopefully. And then from there, I'll say, fortunately, a lot of the people in QPR are, if they have something very specific they want, most of the time they'll be very clear about it. Oh, I need this sound effect here, or this would be hilarious. Other times, though, because we do throw in a lot of comedy, they'll just give me space to throw random things in, and so I will happily just put random stuff in that space. Even recently, I'm trying to remember exactly what the character. There was a character where Alex only speaks one word at a time, and I was like, oh, that's a really interesting. And Alex was like, yeah, I want just something that really accentuates that. And I was like, that's literally what I needed to hear. And so I just found a thing where now it just does a reverse reverb at the beginning, so it always leads into the first thing she says. And I was like, oh, well, this is perfect. That is literally the words that I needed to hear, was something that accentuates the one word thing of that character. I was like, oh, perfect.
So for Blood Crow, actually, kind of, and this is a double-edged sword. I don't recommend it, but it worked. So I'll throw it out there. Okay. Deadlines.
Oh yeah.
I work awesome under deadlines.
Yeah. So when we started the show, we put ourselves on a way harder deadline than we probably should have. We didn't think this through. So having a having a 2-week deadline, because we release 2 episodes a month. So, and life happens. Sometimes you don't get to record everything ahead of time, so it's kind of run and gun. Yes. So a lot of times it was just kind of throw it together in a pot and get feedback, 1 or 2 days feedback, and then I don't have time to worry about if it was good or not. And so that kind of kind of like you were saying, how you'll throw out something because you're your own worst critic. With a deadline, you don't have time to be a critic.
Yeah.
You
Right.
you have to just
Yes.
you have to go and you have to go with your team and say, okay, here's what we got. Is this good? Good. 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 Okay, go.
Yeah. Done is better
And
than perfect.
Done is better than done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
And and when you're constantly releasing shows on a schedule, if you have if you have a not so great episode, okay, you got the next one coming.
And
So-
and that's a great point. Is one of the things that I have to do to be able to get myself out of that zone of being my worst critic is to give myself a deadline. And
Yeah.
say, I want this episode out by X, and I want to have all my episodes done by a certain time so that I can release every single week on a regular schedule. Because in podcasting, if you're all over the place when you're doing schedules, you're going to lose your audience super quick. So you don't need, but
You should have a regular release schedule.
Yeah, it should be a regular release schedule. So when I give myself that deadline, I can't, say I can't recreate entire compositions, to be able to meet the date that I need. So
Yeah, I know that there's a panel. I think it's I don't know if anyone here is part of it, but it's gonna be in here maybe tomorrow or something that's scheduling for creatives.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't emphasize enough as a table full of creatives how important scheduling is probably
Yeah.
for all of us.
Yeah.
Incredibly.
Yeah.
The number of times that I had I infinite time, I would compose the episode, put it onto like an MP3 player or my phone, listen to it in a car, listen to it somewhere else, and go, oh, cool, now I can rebalance this and figure it all out.
Yeah.
I had to figure out how to make a podcast with sound effects and music and voices sound good in a car on the fly from the feedback from episode to episode. And people are like, I couldn't really hear the voices in this episode. Cool. Next episode will be better. I promise. I hope.
Yeah.
And what were you saying, Jason?
Oh, I was going to say, is there some sort of correlation between like being a creative or having a creative mind and not being able to be satisfied with finishing something? Because,
I think so.
Because we'll sort of ride on this journey of something that we're working on, and if we're given infinite time, we'll take infinite time.
Yeah.
And because we're all, I think, imposter syndrome, or just trying to be, just being so hard on yourself with a perfectionist attitude.
Yeah.
We would never get anything done.
Yeah, I think it's a lack of patience, at least in my own case, because I have the fully formulated composition in my head, and I need to get it out into my fingers or into my instrument and get it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And when it doesn't sound that way, it pisses me off.
Oh yeah. No, there's nothing worse than getting an idea or a sound in your head and you can't figure out how to get that sound.
Yes.
That is the worst, because it's like, I know what I want. I can't make the fingers do, I can't make the sound do the thing I want to do.
Yeah. Damn it, I'm going to use a
it's-
kazoo for this. Jeez.
And it's like, no, it's literally like slamming your head against the wall.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to get it out of your brain, and it may even be the sound that you want, but for some reason, the speakers you've got or something like it's
Something's
just
off.
not
Yeah.
translating.
Something's off.
It's just not translating.
But then when it does work, I will blink and 12 hours will have gone by and I won't even notice.
Yes.
Oh, and that
Yeah.
was
Easily.
another thing I was going to say. When I was doing the show, hitting the flow state, hitting that flow state of just I'm sitting down and 6 hours later here's an edit.
Please set yourself up for success and have water bottles and food around you when you're hitting that flow state.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ibuprofen if you're me. We
Staring
are
at a
going.
screen for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We have more questions. We could keep talking forever, but I'd rather talk in a way that addresses your questions. Yes,
And I think I'm the
exactly.
only one that saw it, but he gave me the 15-minute
Oh,
Yeah.
about
great
2
news.
minutes ago.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I'm getting vibrations on my wrist, which is how I keep my schedule. Yes. And so we have a beautiful microphone here. You can come up and you can speak your questions into
Yes.
it.
Anybody
And,
has questions,
yes.
please line up.
Yes, please.
We're excited.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Joe, turn it-
Maybe?
That should be
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
audio
me?
check.
Now
you
we
hear
can
me
hear you even better.
Check one, check two.
Can you talk about when you're working for someone else all the time? Can you talk about how you avoid burnout?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So the question, I'm going to repeat it. I
Yes,
think that
please.
the question is, how do you avoid burnout? And specifically in the context of, especially, it seems like when you're not necessarily working on your projects. Yeah. I mean, they are yours, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I can say for me, one of the biggest things is I diversify what my creative projects are. I also work at a comic book store. I'm also a camp counselor in the summer. I do a lot of charity work, and so I'm able to go do this other things. And then occasionally, and so like each one sort of builds me up in a different way. Some things might renew me spiritually, mentally, emotionally, type of thing. Physically, that one's usually sleep. But that's also the big one is I do have a lot of people in my circles that are very aware of the fact that I might not prioritize my own sleep or physical self-care. And so they'll remind me to. So get good, healthy mates. That'll help you tell you to sleep.
Yeah, Gabe, drink that water bottle in front of you.
Thank you.
And definitely, and I mentioned earlier that this is where deadlines is a double-edged sword because of the release schedule we had. It was just work. Keep working. Oh, a pandemic. Okay, we can finally stop.
We didn't.
And so and that's where like Gabe said, you have to have good people around you. You have to take care of yourself.
Yes.
And I did a very poor job of doing that, and I've been recovering from that burnout since. So diversifying. But also, like, you gotta prioritize yourself. You can't do good work if you're not taking care of yourself.
You cannot be afraid to take a break. If you need it, if you need to regenerate your mind, go freaking watch Game of Thrones or something. Take a break, walk away for a few minutes. Well, maybe not Game of Thrones, but
The first 5 seasons.
Go watch something that you love, or go out. See the sun. Wow.
Yeah.
Touch grass.
Touch grass. Yes. Yeah.
Thank
Look
you.
straight at it.
For me, it's definitely I love caves.
Yeah.
Like I do caving.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Next question. Hello.
Hi, everyone. I have, well, first of all, I want to say thank you all so much for coming. Super cool. Love it. And also love to be surrounded by like kindred horror spirits. So one thing I wanted to ask about is a realm of horror that I'm not a fan of, and that's networking. But in short, I think because you talk endlessly about that, I'd be interested in hearing like what approaches have gotten y'all the gigs that you want, the gigs that you like.
Yeah, and Jason, we're gonna start with you, but I will first say thanks, Blueberry, our sponsor, for the panel. And then let that say again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So for me, living in Los Angeles is a huge plus. Because pre-pandemic and now that things are kind of opening up again, almost any time I go to an event or an industry event, first of all, I am, as you might have guessed, I am a huge extrovert. And so I love social situations. I love social gatherings, and I'm always making new friends. And if I'm at an event where there are a lot of people that are working in the entertainment business, I tend to make a lot of new contacts every time. And so networking to me is something I don't really think about anymore. It just sort of happens. And it's a hard thing to teach anybody because you want to be, you just want to be yourself, and you don't want to seem like that you're desperate for work.
You're like, no, more.
Even though, like, yeah, I need to
Right.
pay rent.
So you gotta. So it's this fine line that you have to walk, and but I say that authenticity and just honesty is the best policy.
Yeah.
But there could be most amazing composer in the world. We might not know that he exists.
Right.
Could be you.
And social media does help, and things, and like we've seen people in the last few years come to huge levels of success through TikTok and things of that nature. So those things can happen, but it always helps to have a great network of friends and people and coworkers and acquaintances and just people that respect your work. You got to be good, but that's sort of the start level.
Yes.
Then from there, it's everything else, and letting people know that you exist.
And I'm going to say I'm trying to control our time just for the question purposes, but I'm also an extrovert. So, but for those who aren't an extrovert, is anybody an introvert on this panel who can talk to that? Yeah.
So I go back and forth, but I'm more of an introvert. I will say volunteering. One thing that's kind of like I don't go out to network. I'm not that type of person. I can't do that. But I went to school for audio, so people needed audio for projects. I volunteered to do audio for projects. That's how I met my co-producer. We became friends, and then we were sitting around talking and, hey, let's make a podcast. What? Okay.
Yeah. You were volunteering here with DragonCon, DC Digital Media. Now I'm hiring you to do some things.
He's not kidding.
Yeah.
They literally we became friends, and they hired me to help edit. And it's not that I was like, hey, I'm an editor. I'm an editor. Let me edit. It was just we build a rapport, through the volunteering and talking as people. You have to be good. But if you're easy to work with and you're friendly and they can chill with you, that's going to go further than
it's like 90% of it. Just be a good person and be somebody that other people want to.
If you're easy to work with, and you're on time and deliver on time, that's like 95% of the game.
Yeah, hit your schedule.
That's the professional.
Definitely be on time.
Jason was going to say one other thing.
Just really quick. I'm super shy, so one of the things that I did was, I started coming to conventions like this, like DragonCon, and, volunteering for paneling and things like that to kind of get myself out there to start speaking and start to be in front of people and talk about the things that I love. And, shockingly, other people like those things as well. And, we become friends, and that's how it kind of works.
Hopefully that's helpful to you, but otherwise follow all of them on Instagram, and then they will talk to you more.
Yes,
about
please.
how
And also, there's the if you're on the
places.
Twitch, there's the link to the
DragonCon Digital Media. Oh yeah, we got the Discord in there.
Next question. We're going a little quicker.
So I was just curious. Are there any particular instruments that you wish you could hear more in composition? Because I know sometimes I'll be listening to like a movie soundtrack or something, and I hear an instrument that I don't hear as often, and it's like, oh, that's really cool that they use this for
chainsaws.
This emotion or
I love it. Okay, everybody, give me one.
The oud.
Oh, I use it.
Can you give me? Wait, can you give me an oud sound?
No.
Even better.
There we go.
I would love to hear more didgeridoo and things.
Ooh,
There's
nice.
not a lot of amazing sound libraries for those.
Circular breathing.
I only say I jokingly say chainsaws because of the Doom soundtrack.
Yes.
The chainsaws.
But chainsaws.
Well, no, there's literally in the soundtrack he recorded chainsaws and made them work in the metal song.
Hitch it up and down.
Musical.
For me, it's theremin. The
what?
yeah,
The
theremin.
Ah, that's awesome.
You haven't been to enough
Yeah,
golf
thank you for the
clubs.
question. Next question.
Hello. Assalamu
Hello.
alaikum.
Hi.
Quick.
All right, very quick. So when I record our D&D podcast, we have music playing in the background. However, it's copyrighted. So right. So when I'm rescoring, like if I'm in the mode to like rescore it,
Mhm.
what have you guys had an experience with that? Like if you were watching a movie, like what?
Is the music picked up on the mics?
Well, we actually now have it on separate channels.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
Okay, so you learned.
thinking
Yeah,
ahead of time.
good
We learned,
news,
right?
great news.
So if
So you haven't released that
No.
with good.
No,
Good.
yeah,
Okay.
because we're trying not to lose all.
So
our
that's
money
just your
and everything.
sample music that you're going to use.
Yeah, so it's not just so like what goes. How would you rescore? Like, give me just like a very basic.
Yeah.
Like because when you're playing in the moment, you hear the music, you see the scene, it's perfect. How do you come back and not just make the same song?
A sentence or two
That's
on
key.
rescoring.
Yeah. So when it comes to rescoring something, typically what you want to do is if you're playing music to that's not necessarily where you want to listen to, because that music is going to be random the whole time. But you want to find the big emotional hits and the points that you want to score to, and then just fill into those. That's the main part of any scoring procedure. Is you find those big emotional hits. Like this is the scene where the character comes in for the first time. Play music, type of thing.
Anyone else with a quick big thing to add?
Yep, I'll add real quick. One thing you could do is just kind of listen to the piece that you have as your sample piece, and see what they did with their instruments. Like, like think of Duel of Fates. What did John Williams do with the choir and his horns? How did he form that together? Don't copy it. But
Well, and I mean, every time that I've tried to copy a piece, it's going to sound wacky and different.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can go for it and try and remake a famous piece, and I promise it'll sound weird and different.
Like it.
Yes.
Last question.
Next
Last question, real quick.
question.
Thank you so much.
So excited.
Last question has to do with data management.
Woo!
Things with regard to being able to store all your VSTs, being able to store your stems, being able to work in a space where you are not going to have your hard drive just filled, and then suddenly, now your computer can't process what you're currently working on. So, any advice?
External
hard drives
right?
are cheap.
Yeah.
External hard drives
yeah.
are getting cheap. You can get a 1 terabyte easily for under $100.
Yep.
2 terabytes, probably about $150.
Write it off. See what you can write off.
Yeah.
Back up.
Yeah.
If it does not exist in 2 places, it does not exist.
Or if you're really addicted to VSTs like me, get a really big solid state drive.
Yes.
And have that separate.
Yeah. Definitely. I compose, or I do a lot of work on my laptop. My laptop has a handful of things just loaded on it, and those are my favorite go-tos. So those are the things that I'm going to do most of my stuff on. But my PC has a very large 2 terabyte hard drive with a bunch of the sound libraries on it, and I have 2 external hard drives with other things. So if I need something, I can swap it around.
Yeah.
Or if I'm doing full composition of something strange, I have that PC with the
Build your own computer. As long as you don't need a video card, it's cheap.
Write it off.
Actually, video cards are cheap now.
Speaking of my favorite go-tos, thank you everyone for going to this panel. Oh my god, thank you. I'm gonna have everyone up here introduce themselves, and then they're gonna do the thing that we talked about, which is that they've volunteered their time and talked about their expertise. So they're going to market themselves and tell you where to find them and their projects. And we're going to start with you, Jason.
All right. I'm Jason Delatorre. You can find our stuff at transmissionsfromatlantis.com. We have 2 different fiction podcasts, and we're working on an animated series.
Oh, wow.
Wait, Jason. Yes.
So once again, I'm Scott Moore. I did all the audio for the Blood Crow stories. It's up on pretty much all podcatchers. We have 3.5 seasons. Obviously, the last season was cut off due to the pandemic. We're on hiatus, and I have no socials because I'm a recluse.
I'll shamelessly plug that you might be working on the Goblins and Growlers
podcast.
I know.
I'm now working on the Goblins and Growlers podcast.
I haven't hired everyone on this table yet, but we'll get there.
But you can also find me all around anywhere in here at DragonCon if you want to ask a question.
Yeah, Scott.
Yeah.
Yes.
My name is Gabriel Perez. Again, you can find me at Amethyst Audiomancer on Instagram, on the Goblins and Growlers Discord, on the Digital Media Discord, and also you can listen to my weird and strange sound effects, some of which I make with my mouth.
Yeah.
On the Quid Pro Roll podcast.
Gabriel.
I'm Jason Charles Miller. If you can remember that, that's where I am on all socials. I'm even jasoncharlesmiller.com. So just find me there, follow me there, and come along on our little journey together.
For a lot of your questions, these guys are exemplifying best practices, so be sure to follow them. And then also, all of them are super approachable, even the shy ones. So send them a message, and they're always happy to help you guys with stuff. Every one of them pays it forward. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, DC Digital Media and volunteers. Yes. And thank you all, DragonCon.
If you guys like this panel, want to see more stuff like this, make sure to 5-star and rate it in the app.
That's right. You can do that.
DragonCon does pay attention to that. So if you want more panels like this, more composition type stuff, let us know, or just more musical stuff.
And just so you guys know, I'm performing tomorrow night at midnight in the Atrium Ballroom.
Oh, wow.
In Area.
There you go.
Some of my solo stuff from my band Godhead, and some of the video game songs and television songs I've sung on. So
Heck
awesome.
Yeah.
was great.
Let me return to you the thing that I stole.
right now.
Oh, and guys, I have ribbons up here if anybody wants any